Good afternoon, and on behalf of the Corporate Laws and the Corporate Governance Committee, of which I am the Vice Chairperson, and my name is Shripriya Kumar, I extend a very, very warm and a very hearty welcome to all of you to this webinar on corporate governance for MSMEs and the role of chartered accountants as advisors. I'd like to draw your attention to a very nice Niti Aayog report, which was published recently on how MSMEs need to be enabled to contribute more to the exports of the country. So the paper is called Boosting Exports from MSMEs. In fact, that was the kind of immediate inspiration, the amount of data and the kind of talk and feedback that we've been getting on the role of MSMEs in this country. That's possibly the motivation for this seminar on MSMEs. I'll read out just the first paragraph from this executive summary. It says, MSMEs are often called the powerhouse of the Indian economy. MSMEs contribute significantly to employment generation, exports, and overall economic growth. They reportedly account for more than 11 crore jobs in this country and contribute to around 27% of India's GDP. According to estimates, the sector consists of around 6.4 crore MSMEs, with 1.5 crores being registered on the Udyam portal and employ around 23% of the Indian labor force, making it the second largest employer in India after agriculture. They account for 38% of the total manufacturing output and 45.03% of the country's total exports. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the MSME landscape for you, for me, and for all of us chartered accountants. On one side, while I speak of MSMEs, on the other side, I must also speak on why they are relevant to us as chartered accountants. Now, I reckon that this audience, we've already got about 400, I'm told, and I'm sure the numbers usually tend to grow in the first 10 minutes. We are either going to be chartered accountants in practice or in employment, or chartered accountants who are entrepreneurs and perhaps MSMEs ourselves. Now, I think in terms of the audit profession, currently, as all of us understand, audit has become slightly risky in this context, and not just the risk part of it. I think it's time that we also evolved ourselves into more of consulting engagements where you add value to clients. Of course, we all studied to be auditors, and I think more than anything else, there's a professional pride in continuing to be a practicing chartered accountant, and nothing that I say or do can take away that part of it. So I think we are critical to the nation in terms of the audit that we do. But on the other side, from our own perspective in terms of learning, growth, and how we can enable ourselves to be business advisors, you've got the capability to do it, and there is a willing market that has enormous potential, 6.5 crore MSMEs to absorb the kind of knowledge that we have. Now, if you look at a typical MSME, there's obviously a business operation, and then there's a whole bit of governance that's sitting, whether it's in terms of financial reporting, whether it's in terms of management reporting. So what's corporate governance basically? I mean, there's, of course, a very grand definition of corporate governance that says, it's the inalienable rights of the shareholders and the duty of the directors to protect it. That was the evolution of corporate governance because ownership was divorced from the management. But corporate governance is about accountability, corporate trusteeship, and transparency. It's basic that I'm and I'm doing what's right for the country. Now, one might ask, okay, why are we talking about corporate governance for MSMEs? That's because I think it helps an MSME group following the building blocks of corporate governance, whether it's in terms of having a proper accounting system, maintenance of books and records, understanding what they do, how do they contract with suppliers, how do they contract with their customers, how do they recover on time. You have this huge MSME Act and all the income tax action that's been surrounding it in terms of non-allowing deductions, etc. I think MSMEs are a sector that's looking forward to your advice. And it's in this context that I'd like to invite our speaker for the day, CA S. Krishnan. I would obviously request Seema Jangid to do more justice to his presence here today, and he readily agreed to read out his full profile. But in that meantime, I thought I should introduce Krishnan in the way that I know and respect him. So he started off his journey and he qualified as a chartered accountant, practiced in Tuticorin, came back to Chennai and decided that he would actually dedicate his professional life to the cause of MSMEs. He works with a set of clients, runs a boutique firm, and actually very intensively engages himself in the MSME sector, whether it's in terms of working with the trade associations that are working with MSMEs or with MSMEs themselves in order to help them scale up and actually see a traction that they need to see. So with these few words, I'd like to invite S. Krishnan and a virtual applause. And thank you so much for being here today, Krishnan. And it's over to Seema Jangid.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone. I would also like to extend a special welcome to our esteemed speaker, C.A. Krishnan Shankaran. And we are also very thankful to Chairman and Vice Chairperson of Corporate Laws and Corporate Governance Committee for bringing in this insightful session to life. I would like to speak about Mr. S. Krishnan. He's a chartered accountant and a cost accountant by profession. With over 24 years of experience as a chartered accountant, he has honored his expertise in areas such as business strategy consulting, organization transformation, management advisory services, and performance improvement advisory. His work primarily focuses on assisting family-managed businesses and SMEs in professionalizing their operations and enhancing stakeholder value through structured growth strategies and best practices in strategy and operation. He's also an active speaker at national and regional conferences, engaging with professional organizations, entrepreneur forums, CII, and various chambers of commerce and trade bodies. Thank you so much, sir, for accepting our invitation. Over to you.
Thank you, Ms. Seema Jangid. Thank you, Madam Sripriya, Vice Chairman of the Corporate Law and Corporate Governance Committee of ICI. A very good evening to everyone and esteemed members of the profession, which I love and respect a lot. So happy to be here amidst all of you. To be very frank, I'm very thrilled and excited to be amongst my fellow fraternity members. So thanks for the nice words of introduction to both Shripriya ma'am as well as Seema ma'am. So without much ado, I would like to straight away get into the subject which has been given today. So as beautifully explained by Shripriya ma'am, so the role of SMEs or MSMEs in India's growth story can never be understated. So it's something which is going to explode like anything in the next 2 decades. And more particularly, it is going to play a very, very important, the SME sector is going to play a very important role in supporting the Viksit Bharat vision of 2047, where India is expected to be in the top 1 or 2 positions in the entire world as an economic power. Having said that, the space of SMEs, okay, for the purpose of today's discussion, I would like to leave out the micro out of today's discussion because there's more very, very tiny and small, and then probably some startup. Let us take the subject be relevant for many chartered accountants in practice across India who are individually practicing in the various locations, whether a metropolitan city or a smaller town, tier 1 or tier 2 city. So the small and medium enterprises, which are essentially again promoter-driven companies. Now these companies basically just once again trying to share the screen. Yeah, I hope the screen is visible for everyone in a slideshow mode.
It's visible, sir.
Yeah, thank you. So if you look at the SME sector, primarily, I would like to define again for the purpose of today's discussion as those run directly by the promoters or entrepreneurs, irrespective of the size. I'm sure many of the chartered accountant friends who are in this meeting will be dealing with promoter-driven companies where the turnover can be even 100 crore or 500 crore also. But still, predominantly, they'll be driven directly by the promoters or entrepreneurs. So irrespective of the size of the turnover, in today's discussion, what we are going to take up is how do you apply the principles of corporate governance in this sector, which is a very important sector for India as a whole, and also a sector which is waiting to be supported by professionals like chartered accountants. So very beautiful topic given by the committee today, role of chartered accountants as advisors. So usually, the moment we come into practice, we all want to get into audit and taxation practice. When we move forward, that's how I also started more than 27 years ago. But then I quickly realized that the need of the clients are much more than auditing and taxation. Though auditing and taxation are extremely important, the need is much more, and they are looking for support. This was the early realization in my career. That is what actually propelled me to get into this particular stream of supporting and advising SME sector and family managed businesses and entrepreneur driven businesses in their growth path. Now, again, if you look at the textbook definition of corporate governance, which we'll be seeing in one of the slides, we can't apply the same way we will be able to apply for a large corporate or a multinational environment to the SME sector. So in the next few minutes, I'll be talking about how we can approach advising our clients, the SME clients, in terms of implementing the basic principles of governance, which obviously includes statutory compliance also. So that is what we'll be looking at. So moving on. So already told, the role of a CA is waiting to be evolved to be an advisor from just an auditor. This again is applicable across India, whether it is a metropolitan city or a fast-growing IT city like Hyderabad or a Bangalore or Pune, or a small town anywhere across India. Because today, in the last 10 to 15 years, the kind of activity in the SME sector, whether in manufacturing or servicing or IT or trading, it's amazing. The excellent growth we are seeing in the various parts. So the need of these clients in their growth phase is something not restricted to only accounting and taxation support alone as auditor. So how do we redefine our role as advisor apart from being the auditor, so that we support our clients in their need? And a lot of small businesses would have started as partnership firms or proprietary concerns. And then over a period of time, because they grow, they would have been converting themselves into private limited companies. That also, again, as chartered accountants, you would have helped the process. But then that is where the clients have to be told about the need to establish a clear differentiation between ownership and management. They should be told that the business is different and you are different. So that is the very key advice which the chartered accountants have to impart to the clients, particularly when they move up in their growth path. Another advantage when we actually evolve as an advisor is, as a single point solution to the client, we will be able to perform our duties as auditors, as well as advising them on how to manage their business effectively and efficiently. So you are actually solving the problem of the client. it is not, it is actually from the client point of view, they'll be so thankful if you are able to do that to the client. Of course, we become growth enabler that way, rather than just restricting ourselves to accounting, auditing, and taxation advice, which is anyway very, very important, which we are doing it in a fantastic way. Now, for the purpose of this role, usage of our knowledge in accounting, finance, compliance, or anyway there, then a bit of, we have to brush up our knowledge in management accounting, costing, management methodologies, etc., etc. So basically, we need to upgrade ourselves in terms of our knowledge and new skills, so that we are well prepared to advise our clients on how to manage their business in the most effective manner, where their governance principles are taken care. So last but not the least, the most important point, the SME sector always works on trust and confidence. It's based on trust-based relationship. So how do we build the trust? Only by being extremely open and transparent with the clients, be straightforward and honest to the client, and make them understand that we are basically part of their success story in their growth path. So in my view, the CA's role in this path of advisor from an auditor is very critical, and those who have already gone through this journey will agree with me that they are not only enjoying themselves in this new role, but they are also adding so much value to the clients in their growth path. Moving on, Madam Sripriya gave a beautiful statistical perspective of the SME sector. In this slide, I'm going to talk about promoter-driven SMEs sector, where I would like to address on the management system or methodology. Why they are so comfortable in the traditional managing system or the traditional way of doing business. They keep talking about personal satisfaction. They're sometimes stuck with ethnical thinking. Ethnic in the sense like, I'm so comfortable working with my own people, my own village person or a town person or a city person, whatever criteria. Person loyalty-based controls. The focus will be more on person loyalty-based controls rather than process or systems. Presumably high command control. Many SMEs, entrepreneurs and promoters have this issue of they want to control everything in their business on their own on a day-to-day basis. Sorry. So these are probably some of the comfort points which they think it is there in the traditional system. But what are the issues? What they are missing out is what we are going to see next. So there will, the transparency may not be there. Everything will come to the desk of the promoter, thereby actually creating a bottleneck also. Delay in decision making will also be there. Single point failure, person dependency will always lead to single point failure, whether the promoter himself or whether when they depend on one or two individuals for everything, that also will lead to single point failure, leading to a lot of financial losses also. In a traditional management methodology, it will lead always to reactive management rather than, it will not enable a proactive risk assessment based management methodology. Now, those kinds of awareness may not be even there for many of the SME entrepreneurs and promoters. So it is very important to educate them that you are always encountering problems and you are doing a breakdown approach rather than preventive approach. It's very important to educate them. Then you all will agree that in business today, every decision, as far as possible, should be based on data. So data-based decision making is very critical, so that no more question of gut feeling decision or intuition-based decision, which may lead to problems in business. So how do you educate that it is important to move towards data-based decision making rather than personality-based decision making? Blind to risk management. How many SME entrepreneurs, the promoters have the perspective or time or mindset to think about risk management. So today, you all will agree with me that more than growth, risk management is more important in business, whether small or medium or large enterprises or multinational companies. Risk management is the most important subject, more than even the aggressive growth which the entrepreneurs want to have. Inability to compete with new kinds of competitors. When the traditional methodology is always being followed, they will not be open for new methods of doing business. So obviously that will lead to downfall of their business ultimately, because they are not able to compete with the new types of competitors. For example, we all would have seen, because of technology-based competition, so many traditional businesses going out. Like we all know that in many cities today, even though the restaurant business, food business, the people who produce the food, in many ways they are dependent on the Swiggies and Zomatos in the market and for their business and for their growth. And they have to shell out a lot of commission or service charges or whatever. How do you create a edge for yourself? Only it is possible only if the entrepreneur is made to think in a better way in terms of managing his business and governing his business. And lack of adaptation to new thought processes. That again is very critical for the business to thrive and survive and grow. And of course, when the entrepreneur is going to be so busy throughout the day managing the transactions and cash and bank and things like that, where will they have the time to monitor and review their business? So it is very important that these issues are highlighted to the promoters, the clients, and then you should first prepare them mentally. The importance of moving from a traditional management methodology to a much more organized management system. Of course, some of the points I've argued here, why it is important for this transformation of the SME sector. Of course, as I already told, the next 20 to 25 years is going to be exciting for India. Entire world has acknowledged this fact that India growth story is something unavoidable for any country. I mean, we all would have read yesterday or today about Elon Musk wanting to come to India to discuss about manufacturing in India. So just imagine the kind of trickling effect of these large investments coming into India in the various sectors. And that is what exactly the huge opportunity for SMEs. Let us take an automobile sector. Let us take defense and aerospace. Let us take FMCG. Let us take pharma, medical equipments. In all these things, there will be a layer where large investments will come. Let's not worry about that. The SMEs have to focus on the trickling effect. The tier 1, tier 2 players are all SMEs. So these SMEs can be playing a huge support role in terms of being suppliers and service providers to these large corporations who are getting into these greenfield sectors. So another aspect, particularly after introduction of GST and after so much of opening up of the mindset of people, many sectors and industries, we are seeing this movement from unorganized to organized sector in many industries. That polarization is happening. So when the industry is moving from unorganized to organized, obviously the need to govern the business better, manage the compliance aspect in a proper way becomes very important. So there are so many essential elements to be taken up during a scaling up process, which we'll be looking at in the few slides coming now. Need to acquire and retain talent. When the entrepreneur, when the business is going to grow, there is a very big need to acquire new talent in the multiple functionalities, and then it's important to retain them. In a traditional method, it's not easy to do that. So how do you create an environment in the organization? How do you help the client create an organization in the environment, in the business,
whereby they'll be able to acquire and retain good talent for the purpose of propelling the growth. Need to adopt the best practices in the particular industry. See, earlier the thought process was, I am just a small business, I can't adopt best practices. No, it is no more the case. Whether we are small or medium, unless the organizations adopt best practices in the various functionalities, whether it is production or procurement or managing the manpower or finances, unless even the small business is able to get into best practices, there's no way they are going to scale up in a comfortable way. And even if they scale up, their profitability will be an issue. So when we talk about scaling up in this entire presentation, in managing the show, we will always talk about growth in top line as well as in bottom line. So that is, we have to keep in mind that. And how do you make sure that the promoters have to focus on things like efficiency, productivity? In my considered view, across India, we see many business balance sheets, P&L. It is the profits are reported after 15 to 20% of inefficiency cost in most of the businesses. I'm sure if you think deeply for your clients, you will be able to understand that. There's always a 15 to 20% extra cost which is incurred by the businesses because of inefficiency in the various aspects of business. How do you help them understand that? Better management control is very critical in the growth phase. We would have seen many organizations crumbling when they don't have a better control mechanism at the time of growth. So how do you make sure the growth comes without stress? There's no point in the entrepreneur stressing themselves just because they are growing and they are trying to do juggling around with too many things. So the need for transformation is unlimited. You can never overstate this. It's very important that the SMEs of today become so organized and give importance to governance aspect. Friends, here I would like to make one point. Usually when we talk about corporate governance as a concept, we talk about financial reporting, transparency, and statutory compliance aspect. I'm going to not only talk about this, I'm going to go a bit beyond that also in the next few slides, where as an advisor, it's important that we play a role in helping the organization or the promoter manage the entire business in a structured way. So ultimately, it is part of the corporate governance perspective. This is the usual expectation from a definition of corporate governance. There has to be accountability, transparency, responsibility, and fairness. Now, if you look at a proprietary concern or a partnership firm or one-man driven company, irrespective of size, how are you going to explain to them that accountability is important? Because many decisions are taken by them directly. They will anyway say, anyway, I am accountable. They will say, why should I be transparent? I'm anyway responsible for running the whole thing. So it's very important. The previous two slides where we established the need for the SMEs to transform. This has to be told to the clients that, boss, you cannot be running your business on your own. You have to establish a team, structure, system, process, and management methodology, even in a small way, so that you will be able to scale up in a proper way. So this is the essence. Now, how do you deploy this is what we'll be looking at next. Now, the methodology, we'll be talking in two aspects. One is internal management system of the company. Other aspect is the vanilla statutory compliance, which we are all well aware of. Talking about internal management system, there are multiple ways one can define. This is one perspective I am presenting.
I'm not saying this is the only way. This is one suggested way. You have to make the client understand, promoter understand that it's important to have a formally defined organization structure. Even if they have 10 employees, let it be part of a structure. Fundamentals, even when they are small, have to be strong so that when they grow, that foundation will take them forward. So help them define the organization structure first properly. Friends, why we are going a bit basic here in SME? When you're going to talk about corporate governance for large companies, it is a CXO-driven environment. Many of these things will be given on hygiene factors in a large environment. Whereas in SME, please understand the client is waiting for you to advise them on how to approach the whole thing. You cannot go to them and talk about corporate governance as a concept and expect them to implement on their own. You have to guide them, handhold them how to approach it. That is why I'm giving these micro details. So help them define the organization structure. So help them define the roles and responsibilities in each of the positions. Needless to say, there's always a roles and responsibility for a position rather than the person. Help them set up process with a lot of controls. When we say process, we'll be looking at detail later. Then how do you help them implement the process? Extremely important role that can be played by chartered accountants. Then of course, needless to say, how do you help the clients leverage technology? Quickly moving on a bit deeper into how do you help them define the organization structure? So the client organization, the promoter has to be explained, has to be, told that it is very important to have a slightly long-term approach in, running their business. And one of the first steps that's important is how do you make sure your business is not dependent on you, and you have to create a proper organization structure where there will be managers and other support staff who will be able to do things, and the promoter should be in a position to manage them and then run the business. And then more importantly, when we are talking about an organization structure, always responsibility to deliver comes with requirement of defining the authority and empowerment. So all those things are part of this particular phase where we can help the organization do all these things. Once we define the organization structure, then we have to define the roles and responsibility of each of the position with a lot of clarity and direction. Why I am emphasizing this point? My experience of dealing with a number of SME organizations, several organizations face attrition because the role clarity is not there for many of the employees. They are not sure why they exist in the organization. They are not sure what they should deliver. On the contrary, wherever the clarity is there, then the continuity of employment is ensured. A lot of clarity and direction will be there. So the basic requirement is everyone in the organization should be clear why they exist in the organization, what they are supposed to deliver, and what is the parameter in which they will be measured. Second thing, what this will lead to, employees are expected to take ownership of their task and accountable for their mistakes. Often, you would have all seen, this does not happen. There's a famous saying, success is always has many parents, and failure or mistakes are always orphan. Like that, how do you make sure the people take ownership of the task and make themselves accountable for their mistakes? So these kinds of education is important for the organization. And more importantly, these roles and responsibilities, once defined, should be explained to the particular people. That is what the organization is expected to do. And unless the R&R, the roles and responsibility, is aligned to the particular individual employee's background and dreams and goals, they are not going to deliver properly. So this is something very important. Often in this SME sector, we talk about non-compliance and non-performance. That is because the organizations don't define things properly and communicate effectively. Having defined the R&R, it is important to come back to the organization structure, and each of the department or a function should be, we can help listing out the activities, and each of the activities there should be standard operating procedures, well defined and documented. That is not very difficult at all, but most organizations don't do this. When they end up in a chaotic way of working, and then the entrepreneur keeps on complaining, nobody is good, and people are working according to their own whims and fancies. Problem is, the organization has not defined the way the organization should run. And that the only way you define is by having a proper structure and defining the various processes in terms of SOPs. So our role can be in advising the organization in drafting the SOPs, that is standard operating procedures, not only for finance, not only for accounts compliance, even for the other functions also. We can help them prepare the SOPs, and then we can help them review the same and take it up for approval by the management. And also these SOPs, if they have to be made more effective, then various checklists, work instruction, formats, all those things are required in deploying the SOPs. All those things are going to be very important in defining the organization in a formal way, so that the organization is prepared with a strong foundation for a better growth phase, which will be governed and administered and managed well by the promoter. And these SOPs have to be implemented very strongly. And the way to implement is only by strong communication, consistent communication. Believe me, chartered accountants are well enabled to do this in terms of conducting workshops, training the people in making them understand the importance of control systems, and are taking a structured approach and everything. What is the benefit the organizations are going to get by this successful implementation of SOPs? Sustainable results. Now, business success cannot be with undulation, with a lot of variation. It has to be a sustainable growth. Now, that is possible primarily because you are standardizing the whole process of managing the business and building in transparency and effectively communicating it to all the executives and various stakeholders. Now, this is a very important phase where, again, as advisors, we play a very important role in helping the organization in implementing the processes once it is established. Needless to say, when the organizations keep growing, these SOPs, if they are expected to be followed completely with manual methodology or by through Excel sheets and things like that, it's not easy. It's not going to be easy to make everybody understand and implement. So that is where we should advise that usage of technology in terms of converting all these processes into an ERP is going to be very important in managing the processes and making the performance management system better. So for us, thanks to various, I would say, changes in curriculum the last 20 years made in the CA education has helped have a certain perspective of technology already there. For example, I remember doing my DISA way back in 2002, and that was a game changer for me personally for looking at technology with a lot of friendliness, even though I'm not from a technology background. Today, major part of my professional intervention with my clients is through technology. So we cannot avoid, deploying technology in our advisory to our clients. Of course, statutory compliance is something which is always embedded into the core focus and competency of chartered accountants. But then what practically we are seeing is different. A lot of times out of ignorance, the promoters and entrepreneurs fail to maintain their books of accounts properly, fail to account for their inventory or sales and cash and things like that properly. That's purely because of ignorance. When I say ignorance, they may think they are very smart in managing their taxation and things like that. But friends, all of you will agree with me that the last many years, the way compliance as a subject is handled in this country is very stringent. Sometimes, it is, even though we keep things in a beautiful way, still we end up answering a lot of questions. So I always, would like to advise my clients by explaining to them, yes, there is a cost of compliance which you have to incur. But the cost of non-compliance is multiple times than cost of compliance. That's a easy language, the money language, which clients and entrepreneurs and promoters will understand. In order to comply with GST or TDS or TCS or any of the requirements, you might find it difficult. But then if you do that, you're so comfortable and things are very transparent. Tomorrow, even if there is a departmental audit, things are very clear and you are not going to face problem. So assuming there is a departmental audit and they find certain mistakes or non-compliances, many times the promoter keeps running behind the auditor or advocate or the department and they can't focus on their business. So the cost of non-compliance, any law, not only income tax or GST, even company law or labor law, PF, ESI, all those things. It's very important for us to educate our clients that you please look at your profitability after providing for a proper methodology to handle the entire statutory laws which are applicable to your business. Here is where you should play a very important role. And another way to explain to the clients the importance of complying with the laws of the land is, end of the day, our clients are in business to grow. And let us define growth. When we talk about growth, is it only some personal property which they are going to buy, or they are building the business and that growth is visible in the balance sheet of the company? Then we can always educate to the clients, if you properly pay your taxes and comply properly and report well with a lot of transparency, your growth will be visible in the balance sheet, which will also enable you to go for a better valuation if the particular business is suitable and appropriate for the particular direction. So there are multiple advantages when the clients are made to understand the importance of compliance. It's not easy, but then we have to take a very uncompromised stand here, and we have to explain to the clients and make them understand. But let me tell you, again, from my own experience, once the clients understand and they comply, they will be your fan. Because you are showing them the great way to grow, and then the growth is visible in the balance sheet. They will become your fan. They will treat you as their guru. This one slide is very, very critical. Don't brush aside this slide as something which I know very well. But then are we proactively advising our clients in this area and making them understand to run everything in a transparent way? Please ask yourself if you are doing great. So this is something very critical. So in the last 5 slides, we spoke about internal management system, how do we approach it, and then the importance of statutory compliance. In a combined way, how do we approach the various aspects of governance of a business. Couple of more slides to support the organization, which we can do with some management methodologies to ensure effectiveness. See, the buzzword in establishing a process and implementing a process, the buzzwords are efficiency and effectiveness. Okay, end of the day, in manufacturing, we always say, never try to take the profit from the customer. Try to take profit from the shop floor through efficiency and productivity. So, how to make them understand that? So, there are multiple tools that can be used. Two basic concepts I would like to address here. One is, how do you make the organization move from an unorganized way to a structured approach towards their growth? And how do you help the organization manage their business effectively through MRC, monitoring, reviewing, and controlling? That's what we'll be seeing in the next couple of slides. So this is something in my experience has helped many small, medium, and even large organizations take a very structured approach to their organizational growth with proper internal controls and also clarity and transparency. So the principles of corporate governance, they are there, but all these tools are important for deploying the principles of corporate governance and making the organization better. As already I mentioned, most of these aspects would be a regular hygiene factor in a large organization or a multinational setup. But we are not talking about that environment. We are talking about promoter-driven organizations where we can advise them how to approach this. So when we say goal sheet, normally we talk about helping the organization have an annual business plan. In the annual business plan, there has to be a corporate goal, which is the overall top-level goal. And that will be deployed as functional or departmental goals. When we say goals, for example, in a corporate goal, typically there will be a top-line goal from last year's sales to the next year's sales, how much it should move. Similarly, profitability, PBT level, how much from X to Y, how you have to move. Similarly, some more parameters can be taken. For example, if it is a manpower driven business, one can take a goal like percentage of manpower on sales as another goal. So like that, depends on the organization, you can structure the top 3 or 4 goals for the organization as corporate goal. Now, that should be supported by the various departmental goals. When we talk about departments, normally, in the SME sector, we shouldn't complicate or make it very complex by creating multiple departments. We can broadly bring under 5 categories. One is marketing and sales, which is the engine of the organization. Second thing is finance and accounts. Then HR and administration. The fourth is operations or supply chain management or manufacturing. And the fifth is information technology and systems. So broadly, if you look at it, within these 5, you can bring all the functions of the organization. Each of these functions will take their own departmental goals, which again will be aligned to the corporate goal. So what are the various activities and goals to be taken up by the various departments so that it is, when effectively implemented, that supports achievement of the organization goal. Again, what is the advantage in doing all these things? It helps the organization focus on important and critical areas, and also the concept of continuous improvement is embedded into this methodology. identifying inefficiency, identifying problems, and monitoring the progress continuously. All those things will be there. So this goal sheet, the corporate goal sheet supported by the departmental goal sheet. And then after the departmental goal sheet, each of the departmental goal will have separate action points to be enumerated as a guide to the various individuals in the organization. Now imagine running even a boutique organization with such clarity in document. Everyone will come, everyone will know what they are supposed to do, everyone come and deliver and go. If they have a problem in knowledge, they will escalate. Problem is, if you don't take a structured and documented approach, the individuals concerned may not know what they should deliver, how they should do it. The R&R statement, the roles and responsibility earlier we discussed, spoke about what they should deliver. The process SOP document and the goal sheet methodology define the how part of it. How somebody delivers in their business, in their activity. Having set the structure, system, process, goal sheets, how the entrepreneurs can monitor or manage their business, even though they need not involve themselves on a day-to-day basis, on transaction level. See, that is the difference we have to bring in. So I'm suggesting a simple MRC tool, monitor, review and control. So it's a very simple, principle. When we get into a, discomfort in our health, we go to the doctor and we are asked to take a medical test. When the report comes, that is monitoring your health. And then when it is compared with the standard parameters, you are reviewing it. And when the review gives you certain insights and you take action on them, it becomes a controlled environment, right? Very simple. So apply the same principle in business, where whether the organization is able to monitor every activity, the governance aspects, the administration of the various departments effectively. Monitoring is nothing but getting the data at the right time, in a timely manner and in appropriate manner. Then how do they review it? So here, usually my recommendation will be certain things should be reviewed daily. For example, sales activity in any business should be reviewed on a daily basis, end of day review. And every department should have a weekly review of the respective departments and functions, so that the course correction that is to be done will be visible at the early stage of the month, rather than waiting for the entire month to go. So weekly departmental review is very important. And then end of the month, management team and the promoter and as advisor, we also can sit in conducting management review meetings for the businesses, where we will be, the goal sheet will be displayed. I am supposed to deliver this parameter in a measurable way. I have delivered something less. So why? There is a deviation, which means it will lead to some action not being taken or effectiveness not being there. How do we help them plug that? And it will be a continuous affair. So the way the entrepreneur can manage the business, even when he is not going to be involved on a day-to-day basis, is through this MRC principle. Of course, we all know, we don't need to emphasize the importance of internal audit to this forum of chartered accountants. So I'm not dwelling deeply into it. So at the right time, when the organization becomes the right size, insist that there should be a proper internal audit methodology in the organization for better control. And then after all these things, none of the earlier slides will be effective if this slide is not taken care in SME sector. Because this SME sector is primarily driven by either by a proprietor or a partner or a promoter. Now, the mindset of the entrepreneur or promoter is very critical to accept all these things. Often they will say, I want the entire world to change, but I will not change. It doesn't work that way. No, some leader has told, you be the change what you want to see in others. Likewise, if an organization has to change or transform, it is the top man who has to change the mindset first and then decide that governance methodology and transparency and compliance attitude are very important. And I would like to grow the organization without stress and through the people, and I will not behave like an owner all the time. And I will treat my managers properly and respect them and empower them. This mindset change is very important for the MSME sector. But then this transformation at the promoter level is something again, our role comes to play in educating them by using whatever we have spoken earlier. So the need to transform is very important. Of course, this slide again supports the importance of differentiating ownership and management. Again, even when businesses are small, let it be a 5 crore turnover business or a 10 crore turnover business. If the entrepreneur is able to differentiate from the business and himself, then he will do the right things. He will not do things which he likes, right? So that's very important approach, change, which is important, which is essential. Then many times in SME sector, the entrepreneurs will be either technocrats or marketing people or things like that. Many times they don't focus on the critical support functions like finance, HR, IT and things like that. And they end up into problem because they have not focused on managing the critical support functions properly. So it is important to advise them to make sure to hire the right people or outsource it properly to the right people so that the support functions are also taken care. And lack of transparency. See, transparency is the foundational hallmark in corporate governance. Now, lack of transparency in decision making will only lead to stress and will lead to people running away when problems are there. So that should be explained. Don't be an owner all the time. Be a manager. Build a team, trust them, and involve them in all the decision making and things like that. And when always, if you look at the ownership approach, we'll be depending on one or two few people, few employees, and then they sometimes try to take you for a ride also. So it's important that to avoid single point of risk or single point of failure, the management approach should be taken rather than ownership approach. So this is something you may know, but then we don't bother to explain and implement. So that is why I thought it's important to give this slide. This is one way, it's my favorite slide of management pyramid, where any organization, it's a very generalized approach to talk about whatever we spoke now. Now, look at the bottommost layer, which is execution team or the shop floor team or the basic level team. There, the expectation is that just do what is told to you, just execute. And that will be based on work instructions and checklist. That's all. Even SOPs don't work at that basic level, at the worker level. They will be given a checklist or work instruction, step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They have to just follow. The layer which is above that, gray, which is the layer which manages the execution team, and that layer is responsible, which is called mid-management layer, is responsible for creating the processes, based on the business plan and the process implementation and guiding the execution team in terms of work instructions and checklists and things like that. And then the green layer, which is the senior management team, where they'll be transforming the vision of the promoter by preparing business plans and guiding the HODs and things like that. General management cadre, as we call them. Of course, the top management is responsible for, according to me, if an entrepreneur is able to effectively create an organization structure like this, their role should be restricted to 3 key activities: envisioning for the organization, providing the resources required for the organization, and effective MRC, management, monitor, review, and control of all the activities. Then his job is actually done. Sorry. Often the top management, they don't restrict themselves to these critical activities and end up doing the senior management level function or HOD function. And HODs often end up doing execution team function. You would have seen that happening. And that is where confusions are there. Now, it is important for the SME organizations to understand this. And there's no better person than chartered accountants who are also their auditors and advisors to explain to them, to take a very structured way where clarity will be there and reporting structure will be there, monitoring methodology will be there, and transparency will be there. So in that way, we saw 4 aspects of corporate governance, a textbook definition. This is my way of addressing pillars of corporate governance to SMEs. Explain to them the support functions are pillars of corporate governance: finance, HR, admin, systems, IT, and management approach and management review mechanism. These 4 pillars, if they are well set as a foundation in an organization, then an SME will be able to do extremely well in scaling a process, and the auditor would have done a great job in guiding the organization in this path. Friends, with that, I come to the end of the presentation. So I will be happy to take questions, if any.
Please, some questions. Just give me a moment. I'll try to read it out. So we have received some questions. So I'll start with number 1. So what are the additional steps to be taken while doing tax audit if 43B subsection H does not apply? Then what? Then it is reducing our work. I'll just put the questions also in the chat box, so you can just have a look.
Yeah, this sounds to be a typical question on taxation, right? The additional steps to be taken with the tax audit, 43BH. I don't practice tax. I'm really sorry about it. I don't want to, give a half-baked answer when I'm not too sure. So I don't practice tax, so I'm not able to answer this.
No, sir. We have another question coming from a member. He's mentioning MSME for proprietorship business, small turnover, say below 5 crore turnover. Is it possible as they also are giving jobs to nearly 8 to 10 employees since 25 years, same employees continuing.
MSME for proprietary business, small turnover, say below 5 crores turnover. Okay, so is it possible, as they also giving jobs to 10 since 25 years, same employees continuing? Okay, basically we're talking, the question I think talking about employee retention. Yeah, yes, definitely. So HR strategy is very critical, even for small companies. In fact, let me put it this way. I've seen only stable organizations are consistently able to grow. When the attrition is very high, definitely, there'll be a lot of problems in the growth path of the companies. So only when the organization is able to have continuity of people, that is one point. The second point, it is not just sufficient they are continuing with me, but then whether the promoter has done a structured approach to growth and then elevated their lives also, and by making them clear about the expectations in the organization and making them deliver better. See, anybody who is working in an organization for 10 years or 20 years or 25 years is not going to be happy without growth. So the personal growth and personal satisfaction is going to be very critical for the employees also, for them to continue with any organization. Yes, one point, it's very important to retain talent, but it's also important to make sure they grow in their life by making them contribute to the growth of the organization. The element of mutual support to grow should be established, even when the businesses are small. Just to give you an example, in fact, I remember an organization which is about 35 years now. Almost like 80% of the key employees are with the company for 20 years. Believe me, friends, this particular retail company is not in metropolitan city. It is in a place called Madurai in Tamil Nadu. Some 25 years ago, they were hardly about 10 crore sales. By 2010, they were 200 crore sales. Today, it's a 4,000 crore company. But please understand, it is still managed by the promoters directly, no CXOs. One of the best run companies because of various aspects of what we discussed today. Number one, 80% of the key employees are still with them last 20 years. And the organization has invested on these people in terms of upgrading them and thinking better. Best of technologies have been implemented in this company by the promoters with the help of any consultants. And more importantly, they adapted to the best practices in governance and compliance. And it is also a listed company. So I can tell you, it is one of the best managed companies from a small town, which is even today with 4,000 crore, but still a very successful family managed business. So yes, it is not just about continuity of people, but it's also about adding other elements in growth. You are muted, Seema. Again, you are muted, sorry.
Am I audible now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, now yes.
Now
again,
okay. Internal controls are crucial for robust governance. What practical steps can chartered accountants take to help MSMEs strengthen their internal systems?
Can I just put it up in the chat box?
Yeah. Put it.
Internal controls are crucial for robust governance. What practical steps can chartered accountants? Beautiful question. So this is exactly, two of our slides where we explain. See, the internal control systems have to be properly documented. And one way to document is to setting up the process for each of the functions in terms of SOPs, standard operating procedures. And the way we can design the template for standard operating procedures, these control mechanism, maker checker control, and reporting methodology, all those things should be embedded in the standard operating procedures. And more importantly, they have to be effectively implemented. And all these processes, when we set and then implement also, may not be effective as long as we don't review it regularly. So nothing wrong in, as advisors, the chartered accountants engage with the clients in developing a robust management information system for the organization, and then sit with the client and then help them review the business and help them identify control risks in which can be identified beautifully in SOPs and process compliance. So whenever any breakdown happens or a failure happens, we should never think about who did it. We should always think about which process failed, which control in which process failed. That is the way we should educate our clients. And that is possible only when we define the entire control systems by way of standard operating procedures and the related support documents as we discussed.
Thank you, sir. Another question we have just received from a member. As chartered accountants, we are often involved in auditing various aspects of business. How can we use our audit engagement to access and improve governance structure within MSMEs?
Absolutely. That's a way to evolve ourselves from being auditors to advisors and management advisors and management consultants. In my view, friends, chartered accountants are well placed to evolve from being auditor to management advisors, because our strength is our knowledge on accounting, finance, compliance, governance aspect, and all these critical areas. What we have to add elements like certain management principles, methodologies, technology aspect, and these how to implement them. These are the aspects where we have to add on. I also mentioned in one of the slides, almost in the first slide, my knowledge of management, accounting, and costing has been playing a very important role in advising the clients in a better way in building efficiency and productivity. So it's actually when we move from being an auditor to an advisor or to a management advisor, we can actually put to use many of the skills and knowledge which we acquire as CAs. And then that's the beauty of this evolution. Yes, to respond to the point, 100% when we go through an audit practice, how we observe, how we learn various pain points of the organization. See, I'm just sharing my own personal experience in the initial 5 to 10 years of my practice. Now, whenever I had any interaction with any of my clients, I always understood why they come to us, what is the pain point they have, why they are not able to solve the pain point. These are the questions to be asked. And then we document it. And then these pain points can become our USPs. Very simple. It's a business strategy, right? Professional strategy, to use the right word. So in any business, the customer's pain point can become your strategy and USP. So a chartered accountant, in the process of evolving from an auditor to an advisor, should always observe a lot of these pain points, the need, bandwidth problem, so many things the client will be having. Are we able to observe that, or are we just going and finishing the audit and filing it and coming out? So it all depends on how minimalistic approach we have or a broad overview we have. In my view, the young chartered accountants should take a broad overview. A lot of observations have to be done so that you get a hang of doing business. Yes.
The next question related to conflict resolution. Conflict can often arise in closely held or family-run MSME, affecting governance. What practical approaches do you recommend CAs to use to facilitate conflict resolution?
Excellent question. Excellent question. So, in fact, the reason why I am smiling is this is something which I've been going through last 15, 20 years. But let me assure you, very successfully, I've been able to manage. Now, let me give you 2, 3 practices which I did. Number one, take time to keep educating the client. It's not easy. We have to continuously educate our clients, the family of promoters, the importance of compliance and governance aspect. Not only compliance, but also the governance aspect. Because maybe 30 years ago, 20 years ago, there was a notion for SMEs that tax is an expense. And you don't pay tax and you show it as your, make it, consider that as your profit. That's a very wrong way they all had. So it's very important to explain to them. That one slide which I had put up, the cost of compliance versus cost of non-compliance. Please work it out. Please do the homework of this is what you are going to expend for handling compliance in a proper way. But if you don't do this, if you think you are saving something, after a couple of years, you will end up paying multiple times of this money because the non-compliance will come and hit you. So the money language, first is education. Second thing is explaining with homework, the money language has to be spoken. The third thing, build a solid trust with the promoter group. Nothing like, works like trust, building trust. How do you do that? Always, whatever we do should be objective thinking, be honest. We are not here to please somebody, but we are here to guide them in the right way. There will be people who may not take it in the right way, but it's important to educate. Fourth aspect, I also saw in that question. See, in a family business, 3-4 partners may be there. Family members, brothers or cousins or whatever it is. In my experience, it is important to educate each and every one of them equally. Otherwise, anybody can pull string anywhere without proper knowledge and out of ignorance. So only way to handle possible conflict with the promoter group in terms of compliances is educate, build the trust, and make them understand the cost of non-compliance is much, much more than cost of compliance.
Great. Next question comes, giving ESOP is better or increment in salary, which helps them retain in the organization?
Wow, wonderful, wonderful question. So I'm really feeling sad for the first question because I was not able to do justice to that. That's out of my ignorance. I'm really feeling sad for that. But you can see my excitement in these management questions.
Yes, and we are getting many questions like that. We have a lineup of questions coming up on the similar lines.
Yeah. So this particular thing in terms of people, okay. See, ESOP, all of us keep talking about ESOP, but then my question is SME sector, whether we are able to influence the entrepreneurs to have a long-term vision and have a 5-year, 10-year plan, so that when they become big, there's a possibility of unlocking the value, going for IPO or private equity and things like that. When something like that is there, then ESOP can be effective. But it has to be sincere and proper. Because many a times, a lot of entrepreneurs are not very happy to share their ownership. So it is an attitude related issue. So it's important to educate them again, to retain key people, and the stability of the organization is important. In terms of increment, again, 5 years ago, things were different. Of late, what is happening? Increment is really becoming a huge problem because in a standard way, every year manpower cost is increasing by 10%. Because at least 10% overall increment is given by organizations, if not more. Now, is there a foolproof mechanism that the organization is going to earn 10% more profits than the last year? As long as clarity is there, no problem. So I will suggest a via media. new methodology, no, not new, via media, where why can't we identify the key people in the organization and come with a package of a variable pay and fixed pay and do away with increments. This is a new way of handling people. The variable pay should be extremely aggressive, and even unlimited variable pay can be there, provided the goal sheet, individual goal sheet is achieved. The KPIs are achieved by the individual. So that way, you are having your fixed cost under control and making sure the individual contributes and delivers. So ESOPs are applicable only when there is a clarity on value creation in the long run, or IPO or private equity and things like that, or at least a buyback agreement should be there by the promoters who have wherewithal. So that again, everything depends. ESOP is possible only when the organization is run in a very transparent manner. If the promoter has problems in opening up transparently, better to avoid ESOP. Go with fixed pay, variable pay model. Thank you.
Next we have is how to upskill ourselves to provide such services to client. Could you suggest some good courses for the same?
Yeah, beautiful question. In fact, in my first slide also I had addressed. So upskilling is very important. See, personally, and I'm very passionate about what I'm doing. Today, happy to share with you all like about 8 to 9 clients. I don't handle more than 8 to 9 clients now. But then the relationships have been, the minimum relationship has been for 10 years. Sometimes 17 years client and 20-year client. Now the journey, what I have underwent, which I've undergone with the clients is very important. In this process, friends, I did not go through any formal courses. One, we have to be passionate about doing things to take this journey. See, a few years ago, my clients were a bit small. Today, I'm proud to tell you that, our combined turnover where I'm advising is more than $1 billion US. Okay. And believe me, none of them are large corporates or MNCs. These are all SMEs or family managed businesses. It is possible for us to take this journey. No need for any special course. But then as long as we are passionate about transforming ourselves from just an auditor to an advisor, we need to keep learning the unknown areas. For example, I mentioned in my slide also, I'm repeating, apart from our strength in accounting, finance, okay, a lot of us are good in accounting. How many of us are good in finance? We have to ask ourselves. Finance is very different from accounting. How do you equip yourself in treasury management, handling APAR? How do you build your skill on that? Third, compliance aspect. Many CAs I'm seeing, I know income tax, I don't know GST, or I know GST, I don't know income tax. I'm seeing this. It's difficult, friends. We need to know. See, this role is very difficult as advisor. We cannot say we don't know this. Practicing tax is different, but one should have an overview about all these things at least. So the tax law knowledge. Apart from that, as I told you, principles of management, then core management, accounting and costing subjects, which is part of our curriculum anyway. It is that. Believe me, management, accounting and costing systems can help organizations go towards removing inefficiencies and achieving better profitability. So how do we make ourselves expert in that and go ahead and implement things? So in my view, more than attending courses, best is when we have a client where we have a good relationship and trust, we go and engage with them, try to get into implementing things, then we keep learning. But see, any qualification like a MBA or cost accounting, CAMA, London, many things are there. Fine. But then end of the day, the gap between knowing and doing should not be there. Whatever we know, we should know how to implement. So my suggestion is, more than any course which you are able to do great, like MBA or CMA or cost accounting, apart from CA. But then nothing like dirtying your hand in implementing things. Go ahead with the client and implement things and then learn out of it and keep improving. That will give you a lot of conviction and confidence. This will be my response. Thank you.
Next question we have is, being an MSME, I have received grant on CAPEX. So should I adjust the cost of asset to calculate depreciation or consider it as a non-operational income?
I have received a grant on CAPEX. So should I adjust the cost of asset to calculate depreciation? In my view, this should be reduced from the cost of asset for the purpose of calculating depreciation.
Next, I've just posted it. In our experience,
MSMEs often have limited resources. How do you, as advisors, propose cost-effective strategies to enhance corporate governance within these constraints? Would you share any specific tactics or initiatives? Beautiful question, beautiful. I really like this question. See, this is again a practical way of doing things. A lot of times SMEs, we feel they're short of resources. But then here is where our analytical skill comes into play. Our management accounting skills come into play. See, today the financial accounting P&L gives a certain perspective. But how many times, assuming this client is a manufacturing sector client, sorry about it. Assuming they are into manufacturing, how do we know that our client is producing cost of the least? Many SME organizations don't have robust investments to implement costing systems, which is anyway going to be guided by us as advisors. Now, once we introduce the costing systems, we will know where we are spending what. In fact, I would any day suggest implementing ABC, activity-based costing tool, for identifying inefficiencies and budget variances. Now, once it is identified, many a times the technocrat entrepreneur himself will be able to correct the situation. Problem is they may not even know they're inefficient. So at one stage, we can help them generate better profitability from existing methodology itself. The third, the aspect which comes to raising resources or resources that are required for improvement. Let me put it this way. It depends on whether the business is a commoditized business or a specialist product. For both, there are solutions. If it is a commodity business, when I say commodity business, where there's no speciality, there's no entry barrier, many people are there, so much of competition, margins are very less. It is normally considered to be a commodity business. Where the speciality is there, technical superiority is there, the profitability, GP margins are good, then you can play it better. End of the day, we have to understand and we have to make the client understand size or scale is important to build any efficiency aspect or improvement aspect. That size and scale is very, very critical. So which means it's better to have a clear projection of the financials based on the actual business. Normally, we talk about constraints. Like here, we are talking about resources constraints in terms of fund availability. There'll be other constraints also. Many people may not know how to have go-to-market strategy. Many people may have constraints in efficient manufacturing. So identify the constraint and then build a solution on that. Normally, another issue many SMEs may face is, I don't have collateral security, I cannot go to the bank and borrow. But as chartered accountants, we all know that there are institutions like SIDBI and so many state-sponsored financial institutions where you don't need collateral security to go and borrow. There's so many government, both state government and central government schemes available for MSMEs, where you don't need to give any collateral security to some extent. It's not unlimited, but then to some extent. So you take the awareness of such schemes and then try to help the client accordingly. So I don't think money is an issue, sir. Actually, beyond this point, if you are in a specialized product business, if your client is in specialized product business, there's so much of scope and money is the main resource, main issue. Create a proper business plan and help them access equity money with a conscious awareness that equity is the most expensive form of capital. So that is very important. If the client is able to grow to some level with borrowed capital, which is good, which is fine. But equity, no other way, then go for equity with a conscious clarity that you are going to embark on the most expensive form of capital. So it's a question of analyzing it, identifying the problem, and then talk about fund availability. Many times I've seen SMEs coming and complaining about resources. When we ask some detailed questions, they don't have answers. So help them find those answers by your analysis. Thank you.
So next we have is technology plays an increasing significant role in governance. How do you practically assist MSMEs in integrating technology solutions to enhance governance processes, such as automated reporting system of cybersecurity measures?
Absolutely. In fact, this is something not, I would say, technology for governance is now becoming a basic requirement. Now, assuming the client is handling their accounts in Tally, normally many of the SMEs handle their accounts in Tally or Zoho books and things like that. That is a basic software which they may use for accounting. There are so many business analytical tools which are available in SaaS model. You can get educated in there. For example, there's a software called Power BI, which is a business analytical tool. There are a number of tools. I am only suggesting one of them. Power BI is a tool which you can get familiar. And then this Power BI, when it is implemented, it will be embedded on the accounting system or the ERP of the client. And then these kind of analytical software will throw a lot of beautiful management reports. So no need to worry. A number of technology solutions are available. First, we have to get educated with such tools which are available in the market for business analytics. There are Indian software which are now coming up. Also, there are very good tools developed from the US. In my knowledge, Power BI is widely used even by many young chartered accountants who are offering virtual CFO services for many of the SME clients. They're using Power BI and Tally or the respective accounting software and building the thing. See, on the cyber security, that's the second part of the question. They're talking about cyber security. And again, it's a specialized subject. I don't know whether how many chartered accountants today are pursuing information systems audit post-qualification course of the CA. But if you have not done, my suggestion, please do that. Personally, it helped me more than 22 years ago. I was one of the earliest batches when this DISA was introduced. It really helped me understand entire gamut of IT and IT security and things like that. And our knowledge of risk, IT security risk is very important to advise to the client. Now, every touch point on technology today is exposing us to a risk, not necessarily a cyber attack. A simple email today is a security threat. WhatsApp frauds are happening. SMS frauds are happening. Normal telephone frauds are happening. So it's just a question of awareness, which we have to get educated, and we can always prepare a white paper or a presentation and then keep educating our clients so that you can help the client organization build a secured environment from an IT perspective also. Yes. Thank you.
Next we have is, please advise how to reduce the compliance sample with MSME.
How to reduce the compliance cost by a company. Compliance cost, I really don't understand the terminology. I will understand this like this. Suppose an organization has to deploy 4 people. Suppose somebody is talking like that. So how do I make sure how can I continue to pay salary for 4 people to handle my GST, income tax and things like that? Outsource it. Simple. You take it up on outsourcing and do it to the client. Or there are so many chartered accountants and other professionals who are rendering this outsourced services on compliance management. It can always be outsourced. Definitely, outsourcing is a better choice than doing it on our own. So that is one. With regard to, so cost of complying is primarily on establishing the system and process and also the manpower required to handle it. So if we don't have the time, if we mean that organization, they don't have the time and wherewithal to handle it, they can always outsource. It is happening rampantly. We all know that. Yeah. Thank you. Many MSMEs facing problems of receivables from large units. Will recent amendment in MSME Development Act help MSMEs to recover their receivables fast, or any other advantages based on amendments? Beautiful question. Now, all of you would have experienced the 31st March accounting closure for your clients. I can tell you from my experience of dealing with my own clients. I'll tell you one thing about my one auto components client in Chennai. They said usually they get an average collection of about 18 to 20 crores in a month. In March, they got 29 crores. It was a big jump because many of the large customers made the payment on 31st March, before 31st March, because of this MSME amendment. Now, let us consider this MSME amendment carefully. So it's a very important and very beautiful support system brought in by Government of India. But then I strongly believe in Newton's third law. Every action has equal and opposite reaction. So what is the opposite reaction I'm talking about? Yes, 31st March 2024, many of the large units have made the payment. But by now, I'm sure all these large units will be reworking their strategies as to how do I avoid working with the MSMEs so that I am not compelled to make the payment within the 15 days or 45 days as the case may be. See, always the approach of taking shelter on certain government schemes and provisions is not permanent. It can help you in the short run. But then the permanent solution is not that. So collection mechanism should be robust in the organization. But then many industries are suffering by its own inherent nature, like auto components industry, for example. Average credit period is anywhere between 45 to 60 to 90 days. So when the government of India has brought in this, some maybe I'm expecting some OEs or some companies, tier one companies, they may change their strategy. I don't want to deal with organization with MSME certification. What will you do? Government cannot compel any organization to buy only from MSME. Let's be practical. So the cash flow improvement basically should be handled carefully. I know when the businesses are very small, it's not easy to handle this. You end up with your ODCC limit and then start paying more interest and things like that. But this is a basic stage you have to cross, where only thing under your control could be your accounts payable. Assuming your average receivable credit period is 60 days. Are you able to get credit more than 60 days from your creditors, so that you create a negative working capital situation? So there's no one solution to this. I strongly believe that government provisions and government support are only temporary. Management improvement and efficiency is going to be permanent solution for this, particularly to improve cash flow situation in any organization. Thank you.
Next we have is where there is no mention of any agreement or period of payment is mentioned in the invoices. What is the legal position of MSME creditors payment?
So my understanding of this provision is, if there is no agreement, you have to make the payment in 15 days. If there is an agreement which says it is beyond 45 days, you have to make the payment in 45 days. That is the understanding I have of the MSME provision. Yes, ma'am.
This one is very open-ended question, sir. Could you share any success stories or case studies where chartered accountants have significantly improved governance practices within MSME?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Why not? In fact, I was wanting to include 2 case studies from my own experience. But then, I was also conscious that I shouldn't be having more than 20 slides in the presentation. But I can quickly take about 5 minutes. We have time about 5 minutes, right?
Yes, 5 to 10 minutes we can take up, sir.
Yeah. So I'll just take one case study where I've been personally involved, where this kind of involvement from chartered accountant has significantly improved the governance practices. Whatever slide I have made, I can assure all my chartered accountant friends here, 100% personally implemented by me in various clients and successfully also. So please create a belief that it is possible. It has been done by your fellow chartered accountant somewhere. Now, let me take this example. I will give you 2 examples. One is with regard to one textile retail operator in a tier 2 town. They were doing about 60 crore turnover. In textile retail, many of my friends may be knowing, normally PBT will be about 10% if you do it well. You can calculate the profit and tax. But traditionally, before they came to me, they were paying not more than 15 lakhs per annum tax because they did not want to pay. So it took me 3 months for educating the client on the importance of building transparency, bringing all the inventory and sales and everything properly, and then end up pay whatever tax that is there. After this continuous interaction, I'm happy to share with you all, from 15 lakhs in the previous few years, this client ended up paying 1.5 crore proper tax for the entire profits, which was there. Now the story does not end there. Okay. Subsequently, two things happened. For some other reason, there was an income tax survey for this client. And it was the commissionerate, the commissioner who was handling it, told to my partner who went for the hearing, sir, really salute your firm that you have advised the client in the right way of paying such proper tax. Because of this, I am not taking up the past issues because you are directing the client in the right way. So this was one reaction. The other reaction, the other impact, the particular client organization was just operating from one town 6 years ago. In the last 6 years, because we have built this transparency, full accounting, compliance, management review, everything, whatever we spoke, I'm happy to share with you all. They have created two another showrooms, large ones, and earlier they were about 60 crore. Today they have crossed the 200 crore in 6 years. A beautiful success story. It's a small level success story. From a not exactly governance, but in terms of the management methodology transformation, I just mentioned earlier about one listed company in jewelry space, the retail space, where in 2010 from 200 crore, today it is a 4,000 crore company. This company in the last 10 years, they have been transformed completely from just, they still continue to be operated by the family management team only, but the methodology is absolutely professional and the tools used are absolutely like any other large organization, and the best practices are there. Right from MD till the last man in the organization talk process language in this company. And all sorts of governance aspects and compliance aspects are taken care beautifully in this company. It took 3 years for transforming this company. It takes time, friends, for large organizations to transform. But once you do that, then sky is the limit. For your information, this particular organization, which is now about 4,000 crore, we have a 2030 business plan for them. They'll be touching 15,000 crore by 2030, which means just imagine if the proper system, process, and compliance and governance aspect were not there, this confidence of growing would not have been there. The third and the final case study I would like to share is another live case study where in 2005, this particular company in manufacturing sector in Chennai was doing about 8 crore turnover. In 2020, they became 100 crore. This 31st March 24, they have done 220 crore. All these with excellent profitability. So no compromise on profitability. And today the company is zero debt. The company does not have any debt. So 17 years ago, in 2005, when they were 8 crore, they had all sorts of problems. Whether in income tax or then central excise and VAT or Companies Act, so many issues, promoter issues, all sorts of problems. It took 2 years for the company to streamline everything. I was involved as an advisor and later as an auditor of the company also. One thing I'll give credit to the promoters, 100% they took our word and started working based on that with a lot of financial discipline. That is the reason a small company of 8 crore in 2005 is today 220 crore in 2020. Before a 2030 business plan where this company will be going to 2,000 crores. This is an auto components industry. So I can go on, giving you a lot of live case studies. Believe me, if we transform our thinking, we are not only helping ourselves, but we are also helping the organizations to grow rapidly and in the true way, we become partners in nation building. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for such an insightful session. And I'm sure it was an engaging experience. We got a lot of questions from our users, and you have answered them, all of them. So thank you all for joining today's webinar on corporate governance in MSME, role of chartered accountants as advisors. We are sure you found this session very informative and valuable, and your participation made it even more engaging. We are very thankful to see Krishnan for this presentation. On behalf of the Corporate Laws and Corporate Governance Committee of ICI, I thank you all for joining this session. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the wonderful questions also. Really
Thank
enjoyed the questions. Thank you. Bye. All the best.